All right, folks, and welcome to one of the UK's most expensive Ponzi scheme, the water industry. Today, we're talking about how your rising water bills are funding a £22 billion bonanza for investors, not clean rivers, working pipes or less sewage in your local stream, because in Britain, we don't fix broken utilities. We privatise the failure, blame the regulator and call it investment. The government just announced £104 billion in private sector investment to clean up the UK's water infrastructure. Hurrah! Right, except there's a catch. Or rather, £22 billion of them. Because while they claim it's all going to fix crumbling pipes and sewage-filled rivers, a full £22 billion is heading straight into the hands of private investors through interest payments and dividends. So when your water bill rises by an average of £157 over the next 5 years, just know that money isn't going into your local waterworks. It's going into someone's dividend portfolio. And we know this thanks to a Freedom of Information request by Labour MP Clive Lewis, who lifted the lid on what might be the biggest long con in British public infrastructure. Environment Secretary Steve Reed proudly claimed the £104 billion is coming from private investors up front. Yeah, and I'm a high-yield savings account. Let's decode that. Private water companies borrow the money, then hike up your bills to cover the debt, plus give themselves a generous return. So no, you're not attracting private capital. You're just paying twice. Once to borrow it, and again, so someone in a suit can buy their fourth home in the Cotswolds. And the regulator, Ofwat, the watchdog's so effective it barks with a sock in its mouth. Their job? Approve bill increases and make sure investors keep getting their pound of flesh, or in this case, billions of litres of our cash. Meanwhile, rivers are choking with untreated sewage. England had over 400,000 sewage spills in 1 year, but don't worry, your money's hard at work, earning dividends. Here's the magic trick. It's all built around something called regulatory capital value, RCV. It's the made-up valuation of what uses to say, here's how much investors should earn from your water bill. So Thames Water, for example, was valued at £20 billion on paper, but couldn't even sell for £4 billion in real life. It's like putting a sticker price on a collapsing shed and saying, you can't afford not to buy it. And Ofwat, they still use that imaginary valuation to determine how much more they're allowed to take from you. It's like rewarding your dog for peeing on the carpet with a steak. Campaigners, unions and anyone with a functioning brain are furious. Feargal Sharkey, yes, that one, called it the biggest scam perpetrated on the British public. Unite, it's a disgrace. GMB, privatisation has failed. Ash Smith from Windrush Against Sewage. The government is rebadging regulation to carry on the scam. And yet Labour, yes, the same Labour who says they'll clean up the water system, have already barred the independent review from even considering nationalisation. They're keeping the tap running straight into shareholders' pockets. Why? Because God forbid we question the sanctity of private equity. The government insists nationalising water would cost £100 billion. But that number is cooked based on those imaginary Ofwat valuations we just laughed at. If Thames Water can't even sell for £4 billion, how are we pretending it's worth £20 billion? This isn't valuation. It's delusion. You want to fix water in Britain? Stop pricing the public's need for clean water around what billionaires think their return on equity should be. We already paid for the system, we're paying to fix the system, and now we're paying to fund the people who broke it. How is that not a scam? You're not funding clean water. You're funding an investor bailout for a system they've looted for decades. That £22 billion should be going into rivers, pipes and sewage treatment. Instead, it's going to keep this financial vampire alive just long enough to drain a bit more from your direct debit. So tell me in the comments, Should we nationalise water, or are you happy paying more to be flushed down the Thames? Subscribe for more breakdowns of Britain's broken, privatised nightmares. Share this if you're tired of the gaslighting, the sewage and the bills. And remember, when they say private investment, what they really mean is we found a new way to take your money and call it a favour.